Okay, so listen carefully here, guys. A few things before we go into the lab and I do the explanation of all the safety stuff, which hopefully you're familiar with already. Okay, problem we're investigating here has to do with the signs of a chemical reaction. What is the evidence that a chemical reaction occurs? Okay, those kinds of things that we talked about last week when we first introduced chemical reactions. All right, so the purpose of this lab is to find out whether the things we think are signs of a chemical reaction will be evident when a chemical reaction occurs. All right. So the problem we're investigating: when substances are mixed, the chemical properties of each material determine whether a reaction will occur. What evidence do we have that a reaction takes place when the substances are mixed? Okay. Design and variables. All right. The lab is very straightforward. You're going to have several combinations of things that you will mix together. Okay. And you're recording what happens in each one of those reactions. All right. There is a reaction in every set of things you mix together. All right. Does that mean that possibly some of them aren't as obvious as others? Yes. Okay. So you do have to be very observant when you are doing this lab. That is, use all of your senses when a reaction occurs. Most of them, it's pretty obvious. When it happens, you'll know right away. All right. But there are one or two that you have to really examine carefully, okay, to know that a reaction has occurred. Everyone follow on that? You are not allowed to touch them. No, you don't have to touch them. Okay, not touch. All your senses except touch. Smart aleck. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we don't want to be touching anything because obviously some of them are quite corrosive. In order to make it so that the reactions are very obvious, I have to make the solutions fairly concentrated. All right. I mean, when you read in the book what concentration you're supposed to make these, it's so dilute that when you put them together, half the time you can't tell anything happen. So I'm like, you know, go hard or go home. Make it really strong. Stronger is better. Okay. So they are pretty strong, so you do want to make sure if you get any on you, and I don't care which one it is. Okay. If you get any on you, go straight to the sink. All right, and rinse in cold water. Well, that's all you have in your sinks is cold water. Okay, for at least 2 minutes, if not 5 minutes. All right. We are using hydrochloric acid today. Right? It is quite concentrated. We are using sodium hydroxide again today. In fact, you use sodium hydroxide in 3 of the combinations. That's why there's 2 beakers of it. All right. It is quite concentrated. Please be careful with it. We are using acetic acid, also known as vinegar. Except vinegar is the stuff you buy in the store. It's 5%. This stuff, 65. All right. We have glacial acetic acid in the cupboard. It will eat a hole in the countertop if you spill it. Now, the stuff that I have made is a little less concentrated than that. A little. All right. So please be careful with that stuff too. It may smell like vinegar, but it ain't. Okay, it is a lot more concentrated than vinegar, so please be careful with it. The rest of the stuff, relatively less corrosive. You don't have to worry about it eating away at you, but we are using a lead-containing compound. All right, and that's not something you want to ingest or have absorbed through your skin or anything like that. So okay, you just really have to be careful with all this stuff. Same as last time, once you have mixed the material and you've watched the reaction, you're sure everything is kind of done, then you take it over to the waste bucket and rinse it off with your wash bottle into the waste bucket. Okay, and then between each one, not only will you want to rinse it with distilled water, but you'll want to, after that, rinse it under the sink and dry it with a paper towel before you do the next combination. Everyone follow me there? Okay. Okay, so identifying the variables here, manipulated variable, right, would probably have something to do with the different combinations that you are doing. All right, each time we're essentially here looking for the different signs of a chemical reaction. In order to do that, do we have to use different reactions? Yeah, because not every reaction shows every sign of a chemical reaction, so we have to have lots. All right. For the responding variable, well, we kind of just touched on that, right? The responding variable is always the thing that you are watching for, right? Controlled variables, okay? Again, kind of same idea as last time. Any environmental things that could cause changes in reactions, okay? I mean, are we going to keep the temperature pretty consistent in there? Yeah, okay. Things like that. Anything that could affect the rate at which a reaction happens or whether a reaction happens, right? All of those things obviously need to be controlled variables, so you need to think up a few of those things while you're in the lab, okay, while we're working in there. Right? For your hypothesis, we can talk about that when we come back. Okay, but again, if, and then statements. If part deals with the problem, in this case the signs of a chemical reaction. Okay, the and part talks about the experiment, in this case the pairing of different materials to see if a reaction occurs, and the then part would be something probably about the signs of a chemical reaction. Okay, hopefully you're going to see them all. That's what we're looking for. All right. For the initiating and planning, this is the only thing we're going to do in here before we go across to the other to the lab, and that is that I'm going to show you the reactants for all of the reactions. I want you, before we go, to predict the products. All right. We'll be right on some of them, and we'll be way off on some of them, and that's okay. That's the idea here. All right. That's part of good science. All right. So for our first reaction, we've got sodium hydroxide, pair 1, is sodium hydroxide mixed with ammonium chloride. All right, so with pair A, we have, okay, sodium hydroxide, that's NaOH, is reacting with ammonium chloride. And then in pair 2, we have acetic acid. All right, and we have sodium hydrogen carbonate, also known as baking soda. You've seen this reaction like a million times before. All right. Remember, you've got lots of things here with polyatomic ions in them. Remember that acetic acid is an acid because hydrogen's over here. It's the only time you're ever going to see hydrogen act as a metal written last. Okay? And that's because acetic acid is a organic or weak acid. All right? So it does get written differently. So just so you know, hydrogen is acting as a metal here. It is attached to acetate. Okay, CH3COO minus, or CO2 minus, I think it is on your sheet, on your periodic table. All right. Pair C. Okay, we've got sodium hydroxide and magnesium chloride. You will not need to. Whoops, I should write these as numbers because that's what they are. Well. Okay, pair 4 and 5, you do not have to predict. All right, we have not talked about reactions with indicators. That's what phenolphthalein is. Okay, I'll talk about that in a few minutes, but you do not have to predict pair 4 or pair 5. Okay. All right, so those are the reactions that you need to predict. Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes to predict those, then we'll talk about what kind of observations you're going to need to record, and then we'll head on over. All right, so quickly here, guys, while you're finishing up that prediction stuff. Signs of a chemical reaction are what? Color change. Precipitate being formed. Bubbles, which usually means what's been formed? What comes out of the bubbles? Oxygen is a gas. Okay, so a gas being evolved. Evidence of that can be bubbles. Doesn't have to be. All right, what's the other sign that a gas is evolved? Okay, not always, but heat is a sign of a temperature change. Okay, steam, yeah, you might see steam if it's in particular water vapor. Okay, what else? Sometimes you can smell them. Yeah, all right. Odor change, is that a sign that a gas has been evolved? Okay, hint. One of these reactions, that's the only sign. All right, for one of these reactions, the only sign that a chemical change has occurred is a smell. All right, there isn't even any bubbling. It just smells different. All right, so you do need to, for one of them, all right, if it seems like nothing's really happened, sniff. Not snort, sniff. Okay, okay, waft, yeah, that kind of thing, yeah. All right, it's not something you want to get up your nose. Okay? If you do, it'll hurt a lot. Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, be aware. Those are the signs of a chemical reaction. Those are the things we're going to need to watch for. Guys, you don't need to watch any of these reactions for very long. Okay, the reaction is immediate in all of them. I made sure. That's why everything's so concentrated. Okay, then it takes less time. Here's the things you need to record when we are over there. All right, you will want to have like a before and after kind of a chart maybe. All right, so observe the two things before you mix them together. Just make some quick observations, all right? Like if it's clear, okay, things like that, or if it's a solid or a liquid. Well, actually there are no liquids. Any of the stuff that appear liquid are solutions. That stuff's dissolved in water. You can make maybe a note about the solution. Is it clear, cloudy, all right, whatever, right? Any kind of observation of a before, so that when the reaction does occur, you can go, well, the products of this reaction have these properties. They're hot pink, where the stuff that started out was clear, okay, or whatever, all right, whatever, so that you can compare the changes that have occurred. Everyone follow? Okay, because that is the really big thing here that we need to watch for, are the signs of that chemical change. Is the whole purpose for the lab. Okay, questions on that? All right, so it doesn't need, I mean, obviously whatever chart you make right now can just be quick and dirty, all right? You're going to redo it and put it into your lab report typed anyway later, so this is just for you to write stuff in. It doesn't need to be pretty. That's why I didn't have it as a pre-lab activity. Okay? Yeah. Okay, people, so get to your lab stations here and then pull the stools off and have a seat. Okay, we'll have all the equipment out here in just a second, and I'll do the explanation here. Okay, guys, have a look up here, please. Okay, goggles on, aprons on, please, and eyes forward. Okay, all of the solutions are up front. Okay, they are labeled with a Jiffy marker on the sides of the beaker. Okay, and they are labeled with their chemical formula, not with A, B, C, or D. All right, so you'll have to look at the sides of the beaker to see what it is you're grabbing. Okay, for the zinc, okay, there's no scoop in there because it's harmless. Okay, that stuff you can touch with your bare hands. Just pick it up and take it with you. All right, it's just little chunks of metal, won't hurt you. All right, for everything else, I have even gone as far as to write on the eyedropper what stuff it goes in. It is that important that you do not bring the wrong eyedropper back and put it in another one. We're trying to make chemical reactions happen. I don't want the reaction happening in the sample, because it takes a long time to make these samples up, and I don't want to have to make them up again. If, when you come back, you've smudged off the label from the eyedropper and you don't remember which one it is, throw it away and tell me, Coder, look, honestly, I forgot which one it came from, and I can't tell anymore. You might see it on your thumb, maybe, but okay. Just tell me. It's no big deal. I can go get more of those eyedroppers. They're just in the back, and there's a few more of them here. Okay. So just do that if that's the case. Now, one of the things you're going to be using is this. This is a watch glass. All right, they are in the cupboard over by Grant there. Okay, on the top shelf in the right-hand corner. Okay, every group needs one of these. Okay, so you might have to do this like by table. All right, grab one of these, and that's where your reactions are going to occur. Now, here's the thing. They're transparent. If you do this on the table, some of the reactions' color changes may not be as evident if it's dark, because you're against a dark background. So, if it looks like it's hard to see, put it on your white piece of paper. Okay, and then you can tell the difference, all right? But for color changes, that might be kind of important, okay, the going back and forth thing, all right? Last thing has to do with the Phenolphthalein Indicator. Okay, how many people remember hearing the word phenolphthalein before? How many people watch CSI? Okay, that's the stuff that makes the Q-tips turn pink when there's blood on them. Okay, that's phenolphthalein. You're using that today. Okay, there are 4 little squirt bottles here. Squirt's probably not a good word to use. Drop bottles. Okay, up here for you to take the phenolphthalein from, and that is needed for pair number 4 only. All right. Now, in pair number 4, you will only need like 3 drops of this stuff. So don't squirt half the container in. You need 3 drops. It's actually kind of oily. So if you put it on there, you might see kind of like what canola oil or any other kind of oil does when it's against the side of a container. It kind of grabs it, okay, and kind of slowly runs down. This might do that a little bit, which is why you don't want to use more than about 3 drops. Okay. As soon as you put it in the sodium hydroxide, you'll know, all right, because it makes a very definite change. All right. So just 3 drops will be lots for your purposes. Now, thing to remember, okay, if you've read the procedure here, all right, you have to keep the mixture that is pair 4 in order to do pair 5. Okay, so when you've mixed the sodium hydroxide and the phenolphthalein, don't come over here and rinse it into the waste bucket. You need to keep it to mix with the acetic acid. All right, you're going to put the acetic acid in the mixture of sodium hydroxide and phenolphthalein, and another reaction occurs. Everybody follow? Okay, amounts. Should amounts be a controlled variable? Yes. Now, here's the thing. All right, these eyedroppers are all the same size. Fill them completely. Okay, that is, squeeze the bulb until you've squeezed the entire bulb as best you can. Release it until it completely fills. I mean, it's not going to completely fill the bulb, but until it fills as much as possible. All right. For the baking soda, you just want the tip of the scupula to be full of baking soda. All right, and then you will have the same amount of everything, and you'll have a good controlled experiment. Okay. Are there any questions? If there are during the lab, don't be afraid to ask. Okay, I'll have the acids out here in just a minute. Okay, remember, please be careful with the hydrochloric and acetic acids as they are quite concentrated. Hello. You need what? Just keep looking in the drawers. Okay, there should be some more in there. Okay, so guys, you do need to work relatively quickly. This lab shouldn't take very long. Like I said, the reactions are immediate. As soon as you see the reaction, you can move on to the next one. Okay, so a few quick reminders here, guys. Remember that your hypothesis needs to be an if, and then statement. Remember that the if part, okay, is the answer to the problem, and the problem we're investigating is what are the signs of a chemical reaction. Okay, the and part has to deal with the experiment. Okay, so you can briefly describe what went on, and the then part needs to be what you think will happen when, okay, things are mixed together and a chemical reaction occurs. Okay. For your procedure, again, you don't have to write the procedure out. Okay, you can just write C sheet. but then you need to have your observations chart in here. All right, typed up, inserted in the right place. All right, not stapled on the back or anything like that. Insert it right in here. It isn't very big this time, so it shouldn't take up too much room. Also, I want you to include the original predictions that we did this morning, okay, as you're initiating and planning. So underneath your hypothesis, put initiating and planning, and I want you to write in the reactions as you predicted them. I know some of them are wrong, and that's fine. You're not going to lose marks for that. You'll lose marks if you don't include them. All right, so have them in there, even if they're wrong, because I set you up. Honestly, okay? I wrote them up there in a way that would imply that a certain kind of reaction was happening. I wanted you to predict them a certain way. All right? Now we got to look at what really happened. What does the real reaction look like? That's what's going on in the analysis here. Okay, so if you look at down below here in analysis, all right, the first question is so you're going to write it out in formula form, like a proper chemical reaction, balanced, and in words, so you're writing out the names of everything. All right, you're going to write the chemical equation of each chemical reaction as it occurred in the activity. That means some of them you're just going to copy. Right? Because some of them you predicted the right way, and that's the way they happened, and you write them down that way. That's fine. But there's at least two that you probably didn't predict correctly, and we're going to need to write the correct equations down for them. Remembering that you do not need to do pairs 4 and 5. All right? Because we have not talked about indicator reactions. There is absolutely no way for you to predict those correctly. All right? So don't worry about pairs 4 and 5. Just do 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. All right. For your conclusion, remember using the results of the experiment. First restate and then explain why you can accept or reject sources of error, anything that came in that could have happened or happened or whatever. Okay, that there was nothing you could do anything about. Okay, just an example there of what your chart might look like. Doesn't really matter. Okay, I just wrote prior to a reaction it looked like this, and then this happened, right? It doesn't really matter. I'll post these online in case you lose yours or you're not here today or whatever. Okay, so a couple of these we predicted and they didn't go as we planned, all right? Because in both cases, in that reaction, what happened? What was formed that we didn't necessarily predict? Okay. Probably not, actually. In the precipitate reactions, you probably predicted the reactions correctly, but just didn't realize there would be a precipitate. Okay? I'm saying, in which one of these reactions are you sure you didn't predict the products correctly? What's that? Whenever there was a gas formed. Which two reactions had a gas? Numbers 1 and 2. Okay? So on those ones, getting the correct reaction is going to be a little bit tricky. Okay, so you're gonna have to think about those a little bit more than the others. The others, they're mechanical. The double replacement or single replacement or whatever, and they work exactly like they're supposed to. All right, these two did not. So here's the little hints I'm going to give you. In this reaction, the gas that was produced is that. There are 3 products in that reaction. Okay, ammonia is one of the gas that was produced. All right, and in this one here, this isn't much of a hint because as soon as I write it down, you'll go, oh yeah, I knew that. The gas produced in this one is carbon dioxide, and there are 3 products in that one as well. All right, so there's 2 more products in each of those reactions after those gases. So we've got this plus something else. All right, I want you guys to use your resourcefulness to figure out what they are. All right, and then balance those reactions correctly. Okay, everybody with me there? All right, analysis question number 2 is really important. Okay, it's easy, but you got to look for it. Okay, and that is that it asks about the 2 reactions that produced precipitates. You probably predicted those reactions correctly. What you need to do is use your solubility chart to figure out which of the products of those reactions is the precipitate. All right, so you'll have one of those that is soluble in water and one that is not. You have to figure out which one and identify it for me for question number 2. All right, questions there? All right, this is going to be due on Thursday. Okay. So you got a bit of work to do this week because you got your toxin project due next week, okay, and you've got this lab report due Thursday. Right? So I'm giving you 3 days to get that one done. Right? This is probably the only class time we might get a little bit here or there to toy around with it, or if you need to ask questions, but it's going to be due on Thursday. Okay. All right. If you get it done ahead of time, bring it in, have me look it over. I'd be happy to give you some tips and pointers. All right. Watch the podcast while you're putting it together, because I did give you some pretty juicy hints along the way here. Okay. All righty. Good job in the lab today there, guys.